The stuck exercise is really about embodying. So you know, everything was happening in the mind. You were feeling emotional, but we were all sprawled here sitting down. You guys were sitting down in front of your computers. So now's the moment to embody what you might have been feeling, thinking, experiencing into the body. So they use this in Theory U in their work with social presencing theater. And then we'll do another form this afternoon, which is 3D systems mapping. So there are variations of this, and we'll do a variation today. It's a process by which one experiences going through the journey by moving from a stuck sculpture, we call it sculpture 1. So your current reality, how are you stuck? If you were a sculpture, what does that sculpture look like, embodying how you are stuck? And we're going to move to sculpture 2, the emerging future. We do not know what the movements will be or where they will stop, but we can follow the movement and then reflect on our experience. Surprising insights can arise. So what's the purpose? So the invitation is to notice the inclination of individuals and groups of people to move towards a saner, freer, healthier, more creative situation. It's to sense more deeply into the current reality rather than trying to fix the situation from the same mindset or frame of reference that created the stuck situation. Instead, we feel deeply into the situation, suspending our problem-solving habit. By paying attention to our body knowing and to the social field, we discover new directions or fresh insights that were not accessible just by thinking. So some principles. Let the body be the guide. Do not plan, act, mime, pretend, manipulate, or represent. Simply be and do. Lean into the stuck situation. The wisdom is there already. Notice what is emerging. What we in Theory U, sorry to use this terminology, what we call the crack or opening of the future. So your stuck is actually your door or your portal into the future. It informs you of something. How is your body stuck? And that is, rather than see that as a negative thing, it is giving us information. You heard all the things you heard over the last couple of days. How would you free that body so you can move, you can flow into your emerging future? So what I'm saying, just to repeat, your body knows, your body has information. If you were to switch off your brain and let your emotions settle into your body, what would it look like to represent being stuck? Are you in the corner, rolled up in fetal position, crying, shouting? Are you hiding under a table? Any of the above. So I don't want to say too much because I don't want to limit what your stuck position is. Okay. Trust the moment-to-moment experience. So what are the uses and outcomes of this exercise? You become more sensitive to and honest about the feeling quality of a current situation. Suspend concepts, build trust in body knowing. Feel ourselves as part of a co-creative system. Feel what is emerging, a future that we want to create. This exercise can be used by individuals or teams as a practice for letting the intelligence of the body guide us in decisions and actions. Fully embodying our situations gives us direct feedback that informs our decisions. Noticing the interdependence of many factors and influences in every situation gives us a broader perspective. Okay, what's the setup? I already said that. We have today groups of 4. A couple of your groups online are 5, so we're going to give you time for 5. In fact, everybody will have time for 5, even when there's only 4 of you. Sufficient space so that groups can work without distractions. So there are 3 groups here. You don't all have to stay in this space. You can go to Cafe Tanki. Each person will share a gesture, a sculpture, let's just say sculpture 1, and a few minutes of reflection at the end. Part 2 is about 5 minutes, so we'll all do it simultaneously. Then that is moving from your sculpture 1 to your sculpture 2. Remember, 1 is current reality, 2 is emerging future. If you were to release your body, because lying in fetal position in the corner crying gets boring, gets tiring, you just, okay, I've had enough of this. Enough self-pity. I need to stand up. I need to sit up. Whatever. So just let your body lead, and then again, just let your body flow. Don't think too much about it. And then see what position is freer, saner, healthier for you. And then let it unfold into your sculpture 2 or your emerging future. So that's part 2. Part 3 is about 15 minutes per person. So in each of your groups, 15, 15, 15, 15 is 1 hour. And those of you online, 1 hour, 15 minutes. But we're going to give everyone 1 hour, 15 minutes. So each person gets a turn of doing their sculpture 1. And then you get to ask all your friends in your group to emphasize, enhance, clarify your position. You put them in position. So for example, the person lying in the corner in fetal position crying, you're not doing that alone. There's a reason you're doing that. So are you being oppressed by your spouse? Are you being terrorized by your family, your system, your workplace? Let each person in your group symbolize that. Put them in a position. Someone's with a hammer over your head. There's a momo under your bed. So put all those friends in those postures, and then let it unravel, and each person will then find their movement to their sculpture 2, and everyone else in the system also is released from putting you in that stuck position, and everybody has a go at that. Okay? All right, so you all were given the guidelines, part 1, 2, and 3. Those of you online, you find a person in your team, actually all of you, both online and in person, find someone who will read the sequence. You don't need a facilitator, you just need someone who will read and remind, and maybe you need a timer, someone who times the group. So let's recap quickly. We watched the film. We had an overview of the planet. Then we unpacked our history. It was to give us an overview of our shared history, of the themes, the the strains, the stories. And then we looked at how did we develop over the various periods. We unpacked that a little bit. And then we of course, Elan, after the history piece, we listened to myths and creation stories and stories that we know as part of cultural stories. But what she did was helped us ground them and help us see them in our daily, sort of life stories. And then Nick, of course, uh, talked about the linear economy and the culture of patronage, unpacked that for us from his kind of global experiences for us to see our local story. And then more this morning with the looking at it through the lens of power politics, change, and the circular economy, or hopefully the emerging future. Then I asked you to go into your bodies and think about how you're stuck, or how your group is stuck, your team is stuck, your project is stuck, your institution is stuck. Now we're going to take it sort of one more dimension further and look at the system. Okay, the system could be the whole system, the meta system of patronage. The system could be your company, what you're trying to do with your life and your life's work, your village. Okay, so what you're gonna have to think of as groups is what is the system you want to work on. Okay, so you will go back into your groups, the 3 groups that you created earlier. You online will also go back into your groups. Before you can start your system sculpting, you have to think of the system you want to address. Yeah? Okay. This 3D sculpting can be done either you individually, like me, Cynthia, I want to sculpt my life. My journey, my family, my community, and I want to learn more and see more. What we're going to do today is not the personal, we're going to do the collective. Yeah. So it can be either from the individual or the collective. It could be a project, an issue, an organization, an ecosystem, a transition point, etc. When combined with inquiry from 4 specific vantage points, allows for a 360-degree view of current reality and its underlying emerging future potential. So what you're going to do after you do your sculpture, your 3D sculptures, you're going to go from north, south, east, west, and each perspective represents a certain way of seeing things, and there are questions that go along with those perspectives, those vantage points, and it'll teach you to see your world from different angles. What's good, what's not so good, what, etc. What do you love about this? What drains you? You can almost look at it objectively. So what's the purpose? To create an externalized view of current reality and gain insight from multiple perspectives into some of the systemic underlying causes and shaping factors, to sense and surface the inherent possibilities pushing through current reality, and to begin to activate them. Okay, so some underpinning concepts of this exercise. Symbols. When depicting the three-dimensional model of current reality and future possibility, we use an assortment of materials and objects to represent in symbolic form the forces at play. Which Saurus is this? Apa Saurus ini? Huh? T-Rex? Okay. What does this symbolize? I'll let you decide. So arranged according to one's sense of their relationship and proportion, spatial proximity or distance, showing concrete elements as well as intangible essences or dimensions. Anything can be made to represent anything. So for example, I say this is me, and you decide what that represents. I'm under T-Rex. T-Rex is on top of me. You see what I'm saying? Or, it's behind, whatever. So these are all symbols. Then there's this is a minion, right? I'm following this guy. I mean, whatever. You can even take things from the garden, or you can make things. Where were we? Okay, the next underlying concept. So there were symbols. Yeah, you given things that you can make even buildings with this if you want. Yeah, depends how creative you want to be or how architectural you want to be. Archetypes. What is an archetype? An archetype represents a universal aspect of the human psyche or stream of consciousness rooted in the larger social field. When we step into these streams of perception, we experience the world through different lenses, almost like different facets on a prism. Gazing on the scenarios of our lives and work through these facets, new wisdom and perspective begin to appear. We use 4 out of many archetypes, yeah? Sovereign. We've been talking about sovereign all this last couple of days. So one is archetype is sovereign. Sometimes they use the word king, but I guess that's very patriarchal to say king. So we say sovereign. So we don't want to say queen either. So we say sovereign, just sovereignty. And then warrior. That's an archetype. Someone who has warrior presence, warrior energy, warrior sense of being. For example, you maradang, you think of the culture of patronage, you get angry, your body starts shaking, you feel like you want a war. That's an archetype. That's of the warrior. Magician. It's another powerful archetype. You're like, I'm going to turn you into a toad. Well, that's a simplistic view of magician now, but magician. Magician doesn't have to be like do magic. If you can think in a particular way that transforms a situation from this to this, it's like doing magic. Okay, so that's magician archetype. Then there's the lover. It's not like lover, young, kiss kind of lover. The heart of a lover, the spirit of a lover. That's an archetype. Okay, so we have the 4, but again, there are many. Each identifiable in the myths and stories of all time and all cultures. So if you think of Monsopiad, there was the warrior. Then did he become a king? Then there's a shadow side of the archetype. There's the shadow king. Okay, and there's the light king. There's the shadow king or the dark king. These are all just variations. Sometimes, however, the language of archetypes may not be ideal for certain audiences. It's also quite acceptable to use alternative generic references and or the four cardinal directions for each of the four perspectives. That's what we're going to use. We're going to use the directions, north, south, east, west. Just make it, literal. East. Okay, east embodies EQ, emotional intelligence, feeling and relationship. South, practicality, action, truth. West, perspective and insight, reflection and learning. North, purpose, understanding. Okay. So if you were to go with the archetypes, East is lover, South is warrior, West is magician, North is sovereign. These are things that like evolved and from, sort of global cultures, if you like. Native Americans, all these people, they have different colors for the different directions, etc. Okay, so we're going to be using the east, south, west, north. And for each of those directions, after you've done your model, there are a couple of questions. Yeah, and you're going to go to each perspective and look at those or answer those questions. Drawing from, as I said, drawing from indigenous teachings and symbolic use of the cardinal points of the compass, we locate the lover in the east, the warrior in the south, the magician in the west, and the sovereign in the north. These locations may vary slightly from one teaching to another. Okay, what's the setup? So we're not going to do the individual version, we're doing the team version. You can either be 2 or 2 to 5. We're going to have 4 or 5. One of whom can double as peer or coach. That doesn't mean you're coaching necessarily. It just means you're helping guide through this you're helping read, yeah, and also time. So it's gonna be about 60 minutes, plus minus 60 minutes to 1 hour 15 minutes. The materials, you have these for those of you who are here. And then, as I said earlier, those of you online, you have an entire folder of things. And if you don't think what you have in the folder is enough, you can go to Google. Then you can get the whole universe there. All right. So again, there are 3 steps. Step 1 is about 30 minutes, okay? Step 1 is 30 minutes. So as I said earlier, you set your intention of what you want to focus on. So as I said, you can think of, maybe you want to talk about the culture of patronage. Maybe you want to talk about the system of orang besar. Maybe you want to talk about native land issues. Really, it's like anything you want to talk about, and you will have to decide as your group, what do we want to address? Food sovereignty, energy sovereignty, all these things. Co-create a model or sculpture that represents the current situation or system that you want to transform. After each step, explain to your colleagues what you did. Listen to what they each say and do, and build on each other's ideas. Include yourself and your organization in the model. So can I ask Neville to very quickly do a simple model? And actually I've seen people do like highways and buildings, like you really can go to town with it. Why don't you model a simple like fishing situation? Here. Make it fast.
Okay.
Very simple.
So this is the resource critical to the development of a source of protein for people, and in any countries it's usually governed by the about the states. But it is actually a source of resources for many cute little. I know it's a backbone for the people to be able to provide source of protein to everyone. Uh, but the government is responsible for policing it lah. They're policing it, keeping the guns and catching anyone yang tangkap the laws. But the problem is at the same time, this Tauke here is like very close to the big boss. He has very close ties. So he has the exception over everyone else. So this all these cuties kasihan betul because they have to go through a system that is unfair, and then regulators all kowtow to, oh, this one is, I don't know, this is important because he's the one that's providing to the economy of the state because he supplies 50,000 tons of, I don't know, every year. And then everyone here is macam at a loss, and then I mean they rely on this, and then but they also cannot help but wonder like macam mana lah ini kami ni begini. Then again, they for years and years and years they try to, ini obat-obatnya ya, ini obatnya kalau kita bisa. They always try to, as people who are using those resources, they have a system to, advocate, have a strong representation. They've been trying to have a good representation, so sometimes they will form an association here, and then so that this association can, like, you know uh, please give us more rights, please give us more rights, and blah 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 blah. And then, like, this guy is like the least empowered to do his job, because there's a dinosaur behind him who's claiming credit for everything that he's doing. So that's the current system lah.
Okay.
Also, at the side note, you have,
I know. Ada side note
at
lagi.
the same time, no one cares, everyone just want to ano, and then lama-lama ni tiada, sudah tinggal.
Okay. Okay, that was step 1. You decide what do you want to address, what system do you want to address, and then you sculpt your system. Okay? You can use everything, you can use part of it, it's just totally up to you. Okay. Step 2, another 30, max 40 minutes. Reflect on your model from 4 directions. One person, your coach, whoever, reads aloud the questions below, and they're going to be below. Each person responds briefly, then move to the next question. The whole team physically moves position between each set of questions. Key points can be captured. Yeah, someone can take notes. So, okay, for example, East. So your whole team, your whole group, your whole gang, you go to the East. You have to stand up and look at it. You guys, I hope you watched the tutorial video because we put a lot of time and energy into it. Not that I'm guilting you. I'm just, I hope lah, because the instructions are there. You're not going to be able to do this, but we taught you how to take a picture of your Jamboard and then rotate it. Okay, to east, east, south, west, north. So what we're going to do is we're going to, from the east, you're going to say, what do you love about the system? What are your sources of energy? Everybody says da 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 da, and everybody already talked. Okay. What frustrates you? What causes you to lose energy? So what drains you? And you talk about that. Okay, then you're going to go to south. Mana sudah south? Oh, east bata ni sini tadi. This is east. Okay, so this is east. Okay, south is the angle, the perspective of practicality. What are the key conflicts? What are the key conflicts and hard truths that you face or you have to face going forward? So you look at that, oh, oh crap. Ah, shit. I have to face this. Oh. Okay, then someone can take notes, very quick notes. You can just use your phone or whatever, or just jot it down. Everyone's already said it's actually just a conversation. Then you go to the West. Perspective. What beliefs and systemic barriers lock you into the current state of operating? Okay, beliefs and systemic barriers. Okay, talk, talk, talk. Government people are lazy, whatever. Okay, then you're gonna go lastly to the north, vision and purpose. What in this situation is the old that's ending or should die? What do you feel is the new wanting to be born or wanting to emerge? Then you have that conversation. Okay, that's step 2. Okay, you can see why it's Sela 30 minutes. Last step, step 3, about 15 minutes. Now, after you had that discussion, adjust, change your model together so that it better represents the future that you want to create. So you can move things, move all the components around based on your discussion, where you see the openings are, where you see the stucks are that you can unstuck. If you were to think about back to the stuck exercise, how can you as a facilitator yourself unstuck so it unravels a stuckness? Okay. Then you change it around, reflect on your common intention. What in this model, the future you want to create, are the essentials that you most care about? So what are the essentials? Is it this value, this value, this value? Is it justice? Is it sovereignty? Is it, whatever? It can be big, it can be small. Identify, last step, the 2 or 3 strategic leverage points that could start to move the system from here to there, from the old system that you did to the new one. So 2 or 3 strategic leverage points. So you'll say, actually this guy is an ally. This person could actually help us, as an ally, blah, blah, blah. One thing, remember when, I forgot to say, when you're doing your original current reality, don't let, like Neville, not that Neville did it wrong, I asked him to model it. You have to do it as a group. You can't just let one person do it all while you're watching. You have, so if you're doing it together, you say, I think the fishermen over here, right? Who else is here? Who else is in the mix? You do it together. So you have to talk it out and say what is what. Okay? This is not a time to sit out and be like, let your colleagues do the work while you're checked out. Similarly, when you're changing it, do it also as a group practice. Okay? Sometimes bising juga. So maybe you want to be 1, 2, you could go back to your same spots. All right? So Katrina, you can let them loose into their rooms. Katrina will give you your Jamboard links, and then you can go to the folder with all your barang-barang, okay? All right, have fun. And then do it all, and then we come back and we'll just share a little bit. All right, enjoy. Those of you online, we would love to hear your experience because you had something very new, which was doing 3D online with a
3D
jam
on
board.
1D.
So I'm sure you're innovators. So yeah, everyone grab the mic, literally or figuratively, and again, it is always in the spirit of co-learning.
It's quite good also because I realized in the Google Drive that Katrina prepared, there's a lot of icons and all that. And also Google, we can also go to Google search to search for a photograph or whatever that we need. So in my group, everybody got the hang of it very, very quickly. Placing all the symbols, go to the next sequence and all that. No problem lah. Very nice. I think it's not difficult. It's not difficult.
I think I like the part where, because we're doing this in a group and especially with like colleagues, so we more or less know what we are trying to do. And there are some people with certain perks like getting it organized. So some people will help by looking for the icon. So there's like synergy. Yeah. So that's very, very good to work together, that feeling.
So Cynthia, you always use mahjong paper for so many years, mahjong paper flipping. I think this is something that can replace mahjong paper online. And it has all the text, the color, even pictures and all that. So I think it's very useful, probably I would say more useful than mahjong paper if I can say that, because I can even save it on PDF and all that. So it's really cool. Like, for example, sometimes we use mahjong paper in the workshop. We are the one who is doing all the writing, can do the writing. Everybody can write. So it's more, everybody will be attached to the production of that thing. Yeah, rather than one person just in charge of the mahjong paper.
And I think it makes a big difference to be able to move the things around instead of like on the mahjong paper. When you write something, you don't get to move it around like a chess piece. So just now, I kind of feel like I'm like strategy, like you are playing a chess. Yeah.
Great, thanks.
And once we finish the rough work, Vivian can even beautify it and adjust it again nicely before we save it in PDF.
Oh, say. So that one can go on the FSI website, right? As a module, your session.
Can.
I'm distracted by Yana keep changing. Got pirate lah, got mustache lah. Okay, CSPO team is back. Great. All right, how was it? So how was it? Anyone else?
Yeah. I'm very excited. I would love to see the online one also. So for me, the experience was very good. I mean, we have done this kind of activities before, but it was something that, I do not know. We decided to focus. First of all, before we started, we said, okay, where shall we focus? Because we had different interests. So in the end, we said, oh, we'll take Sigama. It's a new area because maybe from there, me and Ilan can learn more about the area. But I think we were happy. I mean, our group was good, but because there was Ilan, our artist. She can do many things, but it helped us to look deeper into the area, even though we have not even done the baseline. We have some knowledge like me. I know Sigama is one of the cradle of civilization in Sabah because it's one of the big rivers. And we actually, the highlight of the KDCA, every year we have Kamatan, the Pinampang, the Kadazan, the Tambunan. We have never even heard of the Dusun who lived there long time ago. They are the earliest civilization. So we were able to kind of discuss and got excited about, there must be the history there in the caves because there's caves there, and how they were connected with the people because this Sigama is a big river and it opens into the sea. So we had it was a long conversation. We have lots of questions, a lot of stories. So at least even though I didn't go to this area, I can imagine this mining and also that oil palm. And I cannot imagine that this community who live near the river don't even have access to clean water. So I think that our discussion in the group was for me very, very deep lah. A lot of new revelation, and we can think of new things for the women, for the children, education, history, so many things. So great to be involved in that activity.
Saya ini baru pertama kali saya buat ini activity 3D ini. And then apa yang saya dapat melalui activity ini, dia boleh memecahkan, kalau kita brainstorming kan dia boleh kasih pecah otak kita sampai kita boleh imagine, saya sampai boleh imagine 5 tahun akan datang, di mana landscape di kampung ini sangat cantik dan aktiviti dahulu kala muncul kembali. Kami punya mapping ini berkenaan dengan sawah padi. Ya, jadi bila kami buat ini aktiviti, saya terimagine di mana satu masa nanti kehidupan di dalam kampung tersebut sangat harmoni dan hubungan antara kampung dengan kampung sekitar pun sangat harmoni. Kesehatan kembali seperti dulu kala, seperti apa yang terjadi saat ini. Kampung saya sendiri 90% penduduk dia semua berpenyakitan kronik. Saya tidak tahu apa punca ya, mungkin akibat daripada yang seperti Dr. Nick cakap tuh. Jadi dalam aktiviti tadi kami sudah sampai ke arah itu, ke arah memperbaiki sistem pemakanan, sistem hubungan antara masyarakat kampung dan sistem ekologi di kampung itu. Dan sangat bermakna lah ini aktiviti. Dan saya akan coba bawa aktiviti ini kepada orang kampung untuk terang buka minda, untuk mereka sedar apa tujuannya program ini dijalankan. Nah, itu sajalah.
Discussing about the area, if we just present this is the area, begitu PowerPoint begitu kan, it might not be that participatory lah. So the process itself, where we creatively put and decide the colors and what you call indicators of the area, and then to ask whether this, when we are not so sure, and then there's an opinion, and then we presented it together. It was so good. And then after that, we have the guide question of the 4 corners. It's also, I think, very inspiring because Now, before we continue our work in that area, we already have these questions that we can bring to ourselves and to the community lah. So I find although macam we have already done this 3D modeling, but I think every context and every process is different. So the outcome is quite, very refreshing for me lah. Usually when you go into a discussion and present, and if you are the presenter, you get asked with so many questions, and of course, especially when you're just beginning to know the area, you will be like on the spot, kan? But this one is like okay, and then it's not really squeezing you, but it's actually a generative discussion. So I think it's really to me an experience that we can use, affirm that we can use this process to actually really open up a conversation. Terima kasih.
I think my colleague they forgot to show, but I have kept a copy. Nah, ini dia.
Oh.
Okay, ini dia. So inilah kami punya team food security lah. So
Start dengan cari simbol dari setiap satu dari kami tentang apa yang kami rasa, about what we feel about food security. So I put burger, and then Casey put the paddy at the bottom right corner that you can see the model project, and then si Najib, he put the people, the colorful people, and then Ryan, he put money. And then we did another route to put additional graphic to put ourselves into the picture, the ecology. So that's when things started to get interesting, because kan initially when we put the symbol kan it's very linear. Letak 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 begitu saja. And then when we put ourselves into the picture, that's when the arrow started coming in. And that's when we like terus kasih gerak, and then we told ourselves, okay, let's put ourselves and then connect with another symbol that we feel connected to lah. So it's a bit different lah dengan dengan 3D modeling yang physical. Yeah, we gotta like strategize sikit. So I think our discussion, it's really like chill and just straightforward. And I also think kenapa the workshop for the past 3 days terus bikin kami lupa pasal duit. Like sebab kan ini food security kan, okay, kami cakap pasal duit lah, semua faktor-faktor yang pasal food security, GMO, healthy food. Man. Lepas tu kan bila kami with the last question kan, to think about the future kan, we were like, let's look at Tengilan Padi project. The spirit was just sharing, was just sharing, and then having their own food, no money, and then you have food security. It's as simple as that. And then we were like, imagine kalau kita boleh copy. Imagine kalau the spirit of sharing kena spread towards all over Sabah. That's it lah. And then we were like, okay, maybe the future is Tengilan as this pilot inspiring model that can inspire other communities di Sabah. Tapi kalau landscape dorang tidak ngam padi, never mind, they can plant other crops. Tapi dorang boleh guna the spirit that the Tengilan Padi project had. So that's basically it, I think. Ada mau tambah kah yang lain?
And all good things come to an end. Let's get some closure together. Usually when a group comes together for a purpose, and then you have a rich experience. The death of that gathering can actually be more sad than we think it is, and there always needs to be closure and a little bit of mourning, and then sort of a death and then a rebirth. So that's usually the purpose of closure. I also wanted for the closure to be an opening for the next thing. I think you're getting a sense of what a mountaintop session is and why we called it a mountaintop session. And then from there, you get a sense of why the next new moon is a valley immersion. So this was the thinking, the dreaming, the talking, the reflecting, really the opportunity to take time out together to think about these things, to explore these things. We don't usually get that time. So, thanks for making the time to do this. And of course, you can't do it alone. It is something to be done together.
I came here with a full basket that's also a burden, that basket that Nick's talking about. And I realized kind of on hindsight that I wasn't expecting the joy to unload that basket here with all of you. But at the same time, I feel like all this stuff that burns up inside of me, that in a way burns because I'm not sharing it. And I realize part of my problem is that I keep it to myself too much. And the process of sharing is really liberating. But I'm going back with another full basket that all of you have given through this process. And I just want to say how much I appreciate that. Like really, it's like, it's not a burden. It's a different energy that I really appreciate. And it's I like the word tangible. I know it. Like you can feel it, like it's real, right? So I have this full basket that I'm going to feed off for quite some time. And I just want to say thank you to all of you for letting me unburden and also for filling as well. And I just want to say just to all of you how much I appreciate that and how much I'm impressed by your tech team. And that Zoom is this session on another level also shows something else, which is how much we can connect across Sabah with different people using this format. So having everyone that's on this screen, the Zoom, makes it feel like this other kind of bigness that is not in this beautiful setting alone, but that it's much bigger than that. And having all your faces there really makes that feel tangible and real and touchable as well. But I just want to say thank you. I know how much I appreciate it. And it means a lot. Yeah.
Hi. First of all, I want to thank Cynthia for inviting us. Actually, she posted in our board WhatsApp group. Then I was thinking, then I look at the title. Wow, I said, I'm quite busy, but I think I want to go for this one. But that was just in my mind. But I'm grateful because she extended to she said to the partners of FS. So Yogi was the one who go and persuade Nasiri and Gordon to come, a few of us, but two of them came, and I think it's a new experience for them. They said they liked the session. But for me personally, it's really good because these topics that has been discussed is something that I'm very interested. I've always been interested in circular economy and especially the thing about education, about Nicholas, what he's talking about. So I thought, wow, what I didn't expect to study the sejarah. I think that has a lasting impression on me when we did the history. And after that, to think about how is it in, in our situation. So thank you for everyone, because actually, as Cynthia was saying, it's a learning. It's not just about yourself and listening to others, but among ourselves, our interaction. Memang kita punya bakul pun penuh lah. We always have this session whenever we have a gathering called Suangay na Baraitku, dia bilang. Fill in my bag. And so saya punya bag pun penuh sudah ini, which I think it will be very good for me. Thank you for everyone and people on there in the online.
This is really good. I feel very, very happy and very passionate and very excited about what has become possible here with the timing of everything, the new rice coming into this, with all the obstacles. Somehow we made it work. I mean, I say we, I didn't do anything for this. But to see how it worked, to have you guys with us on Zoom, to have Nick, who, as Cynthia says, he's somebody that I worked with in many years ago, and we met him together about 5 or 6 years ago, I think, and had been dreaming of one day that he could come here, but then he didn't come here, but yet he came here. This space that was finished a year ago by, the seed students and the architect camp and so on. We thought of it only as a very physical space for learning. We had no idea then that it was going to be a space for virtual connection as well as physical learning. And it worked very well, didn't it? And somehow or another, between Cynthia and Katrina and Casimir and goodness knows who else, they managed to get internet in here a few days ago, and it worked. It worked. And I'm really, really grateful that those of you who could came. It was beautiful to have you with us and to eat together with you and to feel that. And I'm really grateful that those of you on Zoom were with us too, and you were playing and having fun with us and each other. And of course I want to see you in person, but I didn't feel you too far away. And I think for me, I've always been most passionate about the importance of the freedom of knowing, the importance of the freedom of knowing. When I was a teenager, the struggle for Southern Africa was in full force. And I was very influenced by a man called Steve Biko, who was a Black South African leader who was killed. But he wrote a book when he was still a very young man, beautiful book. And in that book, he said, the greatest weapon of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. And he wrote about his own struggle in the 1970s to free himself from that. And it had a huge impact on me, and that we could do a session like this and we could be freed in two completely different ways. We were freed by what you said, Ilan, it was beautiful how you brought in your facts or whatever, but you freed us by not landing with a plain load of facts. You freed us by coming from all directions. And then there's something about Nick Farraklas's tireless ability to, rigidly make everything open. And then, every time, you would try. I mean, I've been, as you know, as you said, I've been basically sitting listening. Every time you guys chime in, you chime in with something that could never be imagined, and it's so beautiful and makes my heart really happy. So thank you for everybody. And then we haven't mentioned the IT team. What has made this possible in this space is how you guys have been crazily relentless. I think for 3 or 4 nights during the night, your arms will be like this under the blankets. You know. So anyway, how beautiful it is to work with people like all of you. So and thank you, Cynthia, for holding the vision of this thing and bringing it to this point.
Nothing is simple. Nothing is not complex today. To embrace complexity is to be real. And complexity is where FS's work is. That's being in the trenches. And that's really being in the moments where change will happen and can happen. On that note, thank you. Return well to your places. If you want to stay on, boleh juga. Stand up, stand up. 1, 2, 3. Whoosh! Whoosh! Whoosh!